Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we are getting into another Lego review. This is the 10 plus set 75374, the Onyx Cinder with 1,325 pieces. Now it's a nice kind of just below that kind of, um, I would say, above the 1,500 mark in terms of pieces. It's actually comparable to the modern current regular Millennium Falcon, not the new Dark Falcon that recently came out, which the Millennium Falcon has 1,351 pieces. So this is within that range. What's interesting about this is link's going to be in the description below. This goes for $140, and though the Millennium Falcon currently is going for 100 and I want to say $36, is like 135.99. The Millennium Falcon normally was more expensive, the current version, and the Razor Crest is, I think, normally would go for about, I want to say the same price, $139. I think it's gone up a little bit because I think it's going to be going out of production. I just named those ones because this is what I like to call a hero ship, and it's the latest of the hero ships, quote unquote. This is, like I said, the Onyx Cinder, and it goes to the new show that's supposed to be released, they say, scheduled for sometime in December of 2024, the Skeleton Crew. So I don't know how that's going to be. I've seen the trailer on it. It seems to be like a Star Wars show that's geared more for kids, and I'm not 100% sure if that's the case. I heard some people reference that it's almost like a Space Goonies, where it's like you have the kids who go on this adventure. You have this guy here. His name is Jod, who kind of looks after them. And getting into some of the characters here, you have Wim. I'm trying to read this from behind the camera. Fern, KB, and Neil. Neil being the smallest because his legs are actually the type that don't bend. So this, I don't really know anything about this set right now. A lot of people don't right now because the show is scheduled to release right now of the time of me of recording this right now. There's a couple, like maybe about 3 months or so, 3 or 4 months till the time that the show is going to come out. Now the thing about it is, and this set released for August 1st of 2024. Now the thing about it is, no one really knows anything about the show. No one knows anything about what's going on with the ship, but everyone has so far unanimously have said that the ship is really cool. Just the visuals of it looks really cool as well. Let's take a look at the box before we get into things, and you could see here. So, someone, you guys probably already seen reviews on this already, but there is a feature here that shows that when you move this trigger point, the thrusters can move like from being straight and it's up. So they go like that. And there's a lot of different openings on this ship, which is cool because I feel like though it doesn't have the most space, it's not comparable to say the Millennium Falcon, but for the size of the ship, they did really put a lot of space. Now it's not all easy to access, but they did put a lot of space in it, which is very interesting because you have such ships like the Ghost, which was my first Star Wars ship, that though it has an okay interior, it really doesn't have a lot of space. And I'm not saying that this has necessarily, it's not as easy to access, but I definitely feel that it has, um, I don't know if to say it has more space, but for the design of the ship and in the way that it looks, I feel like you wouldn't realize it has so much space because you have this main interior space here, which is probably a good 8 studs wide, I'm gonna guess, and a nice maybe, you know, let's see, just looking from here for maybe like 10 to 12 studs long, and then you have a cargo area here, and then you also have another area here where you can get on, and there's like a bed area there. So you have all that, plus you have the cockpit area. So Sorry for the glare, it's a little hard to see. So there's definitely a lot going on for the size of this ship, which I don't think is very big, but it just really kind of utilizes space pretty well, especially considering the fact that it has a lot of features on it. It has a lot of armament too. You have a lot of guns on this ship, so I think that also is very interesting. You have a little seat, the table, and chairs for all four. Even though there's five figures here, and then there's a little bed area, so someone could be sleeping while the other ones are sitting. They have flashlights and other little gear like walkie-talkies. Like I said, you have the cargo. And we are going to jump into the set now because I have been rambling on too long. Let's see how many bags we have for this. Angle the camera a little down so we can just get a nice look at all the bags. As I put them down, I can count them all up. And like I said, this is going to be an interesting set because no one knows about the story right now and what's going on with it. Instructions. And definitely, I think it's going to be, like I said, it looks like a very interesting ship already. Who knows what the show is going to bring. Let's take a look. So we've got, so far the highest number I'm seeing is the 13. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, I know I see 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So we have a total of 13 bags. Now, I just actually finished putting together, just maybe even just 2-3 days ago, maybe, or about 2 or 3 days ago, finished putting together the Imperial Star Destroyer, which was very long for me to do. Some guys are able to do this stuff really quickly. For me, I find it to be a hard time just finding the free time to do it. So I'm going to try to tackle this thing as fast as I can and have it done as fast as I can. But it is definitely a lot of work when you're going to these sets. And it's funny. I just want to make a little note, side note. Whenever you're putting together sets that are like, say, 250 to 300 pieces, like, for example, the Speed Champion sets, I always feel that will take a certain amount of time. But then when you double or triple or quadruple the piece count of that, it doesn't take, quadruple the time. I feel like it takes even more time than that. So it doesn't just like multiply seamlessly. But that's just me. That's the vibe I get. But anyway, so stay tuned. I'll be back with the full set built together and we'll jump into the review. So we are here in the middle of the build, but I just wanted to record this really quick. Sorry about the shaky cam, but it's in my hand right now. So this piece right here, you can see how it moves down. Not down, but like sideways. And you look at the rotation of this piece and this piece here, just so that way you can get a glimpse of when the engines spin, that is the mechanism for it. So this is bag 3, and you pretty much spin most of that portion of the build to putting this together. Okay, everybody, we're back with the finished build. And the first thing we're going to jump into as we break down this review is just jumping into the crew since we have them right in front of us. Now, nobody currently is going to be familiar with any of these characters because they're brand new characters to the Star Wars universe. But jumping into these characters with no particular order, um, matter of fact, I'm going to go in the order of the way they are in the box because it's just easier to go at them like that and then name them as so. So this right here is Jod. So he obviously is going to be, from my understanding or what little I know of the show, the main um, protagonist. He's kind of like becomes almost like the father figure of the kids inside the show. From our understanding, little understanding of the show, the idea is going to be that it's pretty much almost like a kids themed show to some degree, where the kids get to go on this adventures. They say it's akin to almost like the Goonies, except this guy will probably be the father figure who kind of leads them on their journey. And so this guy's name is Judd. He has a little pistol in his hand, but I want to be able to show some of the, he has a secondary face. I want to show some of the background stuff on his the stuff underneath his I'm having a brain fart right now, underneath his scarf. And I've never seen a scarf like that before, so I think the scarf piece looks actually really nice. Very fitting for the style of his character, that very kind of Han Solo-ish character. That's essentially what he gives a vibe of, is almost like a Han Solo type of character. You can see the drapes on the bottom of his garment, which lets you know it's almost like a trench coat like. Very typical rebellious type of hero type of character with the trench coat, scruffy look, 5 o'clock shadow. So yeah, he definitely caters into that vibe. Let me throw his little scarf piece back on. Which once again, like I said, I think the scarf piece looks really nice. And him having the little pistol definitely gives you that vibe of like a Western type of thing. So that character is pretty cool. Next, we have Whim. And I think of all of the kid characters, he's probably going to be the one who's followed most based on the little bit of information I was able to kind of read up on. You see, he's got that little kind of jacket. It's almost like for lack of a better word, almost like a gamer's jacket or something like that. I don't know, like just that, like a bomber's type of jacket. I know this probably no such thing as a gamer's jacket, but I think of that when I think of that kind of post-apocalyptic future ran down young person wearing type of jacket that's kind of slim profile on them. That's the vibe that I get from it. You see he has this really huge nice detailed hairpiece. He's got a worried face, and then he's got a more happy face. It's weird that they have holes in the molding of this. That's interesting because I've never seen that on hairpieces for Lego figures. Then also you see he's got a flashlight. All of them come with a flashlight. You actually have extra flashlights that you're able to put together. He has the small legs, which you're able to actually move, where only one character has tiny legs, which you can't move. Um, and he's got his little radio walkie-talkie thing. So next we have Fern, which is a female. Once again, see no molding, like hole molding for the hair, even though there's a little mold piece. So it's interesting that Whim has that. But her little flashlight, and she's got that kind of actual bomber type of jacket, like a pilot type of jacket. So maybe she's gonna actually know how to fly the plane at some point. She's got the tan brown pants. See the back of her jacket and the worried face. So most of them are gonna have that, a worried face and a regular face, other than the alien species we're gonna get into in a few. But next is KB. People suspect she'll be the techie, but you can see from her clothes, it looks like she's wearing like a jumpsuit type of jacket for like repairing maybe the ship or like a mechanic type of thing. So maybe she is going to be the person who's able to fix on the ship. See the hairpiece in white, And then this, her second face shows that the visor is up. So it kind of reminds you of Geordi from Star Trek. And then last we have Neil. I think he's the youngest of the group, but I'm not really too sure. He's got the overalls on. Um, and he's got the legs that don't move to kind of give that impression that he's the smallest one. He is part of an alien race that I'm not really familiar with the name, but if I'm not mistaken, he was at the on tattooing or part of one of the bands. I think in the either in the first movie, because sometimes I get the music scene mixed up from the first movie in New Hope with the the people at Jabba's location who were also playing music in the background, if I'm not mistaken, if my memory serves me correctly, and whatnot. So sometimes I get those scenes kind of mixed up. But yes, so that is the crew. As far as my thoughts go, with the crew and all, I feel almost like obviously it's really like a show designed for kids. At least that's the idea of it and the concept of it. I do feel that it's one of those things where all of the crew members are they're going to play a role in terms of something, a specialty, like um KB is going to be maybe the tech one and the mechanic working on the ship. The main uh protagonist the of the kids will probably be Wim. I really think that's going to be the case. The one who we're following kind of in general, and the rest of the cast is more of like supporting cast for him as far as the kids go. um you know um you have Fern, who I think is going to be the pilot one. So each one is going to have like a skill level or some type of thing that I think that they're going to, know how to do. That kind of gives them that sense of if you were a kid watching a show similar to like the Ninja Turtles back in the days or any other thing that's similar to that, where you would say, which one do you relate to most? I think Neil is going to be the one who represents that. I'm the underdog, but I'm going to surprise you. I'm going to be the one who kind of is the shy one who doesn't talk much, but now I'm going to surprise you and do things where it's like, hey Neil, we bet you could do it, and he does it, type of thing. So I think that's going to be like his kind of role. And obviously Jod is going to be that one who he also is going to probably have character development and growth, where it's like he's kind of like, I don't want these kids around. And then over time, you start seeing him do things, shows that he cares about the kids, and eventually just showing like, like, yeah, like this is his family. So yeah, that kind of typical thing that they used to do back in the days with shows like that. I think they're going to run that in that way. Now, getting into just a little bit of the design of the ship, and I'm going to come back around to the design after I dive into a few other categories. But essentially, I feel that this ship in general definitely has that Star Wars element to it when it comes to um when it comes to it not being a conventional looking ship. That's like what Star Wars is all about. I mean, besides for the X-wing, most of their ships, and even I'll give it to the Razor Crest, had a very more general design that you would expect, very symmetrical. But most of the ships in Star Wars are not like that. When you look at the Millennium Falcon, which started that aspect to it, you look at even the Slave One, which is symmetrical, but it's just very odd looking shape. In one moment, it looks like it's meant to be standing up straight, and then it's sideways, and it's just all over the place. And a lot of ships are like that, and this is no different. The cockpit is actually over here. Then you have all this other stuff going on with the ship in terms of its general shape looks somewhat symmetrical, but like I said, you have the cockpit there. You have this weird. It almost looks like the ship is like is like a whale. You know, this kind of funny front here. You have different drop points as far as the uh what would you call these? I don't want to say docking bays, but for lack of a better word, docking bays underneath, which come down. And this is where it gets like almost that whale shape to me, almost like a is that a humpback whale or something like that. So yeah, you see that pulls down from that angle, and then this side here can pull down as well. Not easy to get a hold of. But yes, that pulls down. So we're gonna get into all those features in a second. That's just pretty much going over the design, the exterior design. So I think it's interesting. It's definitely Star Wars like, in terms of that. So jumping into the external features of the ship, we've got ourselves a little antenna. And this ship has a lot of firepower. That's another thing too. It's very interesting that it really hits home with the idea of, you could almost say similar to Boba Fett, where a person, or Jango Fett, where you would take a ship, and even though I don't know if this Jod character is a bounty hunter or anything like that, but it's like you take a ship, you retrofit it to be a heavy armament. I don't know what kind of ship this is. I doubt that it's a cargo ship, because a lot of ships in Star Wars are tugboats slash cargo ships. But this ship right here, I don't know as far as the design, but in terms of the firepower, you're looking at, and I don't know if this is going to be similar to the guns on the rear of Ahsoka's ship, which that represents is a micro version of what is supposed to be a gunner seater location that you would sit in, and it would spin around. I don't know if in the show this is going to actually be larger than what you're seeing here, because this externally could be a scale that from the outside looks like it's proportioned, but the inside is obviously made to be minifigure scale. Case in point, this is the cockpit, and you could see how this right here, in universe, might end up being like this huge kind of area where multiple characters can sit in and walk around. And here it's just made to fit one character to sit inside the seat. But I say that to say, so this gunner position here, this one here, might actually be in actual universe really huge, gunner seats that you can sit in and will rotate. With that being said, you have this rotating cannon here, or guns. You have this one here. You have this one here, and this one here. You have the side mounted one. You also have another lower one below the cockpit area. And I'm going to imagine that this is going to kind of be really to protect people from when they're getting in and out of the ship or near the cockpit area, if you're doing work, and you would have that just hovering below, that you can just take a shot at, something near you. Then you have these points here in the front, which I don't know if they're scanning probes or they're guns. There's really no indication until we see the show. That looks like it's a light, which is fine. That seems pretty obvious. And this right here looks like, to me, like it's an arm. Now, even though here they weren't able to, probably, assuming that it is, they weren't able to make it where it comes, extends outwards and that. But I would imagine that this is going to be a piece that, opens up like a little arm like that. And it probably has an extension on it, though they're not able to show that here, but it probably extends outwards and is able to grab hold of things like that, is what I'm going to assume. Also, for the external features, one of the obvious things here is you have these thrusters, or the engines, that you're able to pull this lever back and it rotates. So that part is very cool. A lot of the work in the upper area goes to that, but nonetheless, because of the design of the ship, they're able to still have a lot of space underneath. So that's pretty cool. It's very similar, I would say, to the way that um, the Razor Crest was designed to a degree. Though the Razor Crest didn't have any kind of mechanism here, it had a lot of stuff going on in the structure and the technic structure underneath the support system to house, like, the main frame of it was the upper part along with the engines. So this one, even though that structure is integrated in the mechanism to move the engines, if you had a like an x-ray, kind of vision, and you could see through it, you would see the lining of the structure mostly at like the center upper area. It's like a spine going through it, and that's when not only what operates this, but where you get a lot of the support that goes onto the ship. So with that, showing all the external details, let's jump into some of the internal details as best as possible. So here, as I mentioned before, we'll start with this is the cockpit. You can see there how it looks. Try to get it to focus a little better. So you got pretty much the little computer panels on both sides, over there and over here. And it's just a little spot for someone to sit down. But you can see on the external of it, it gives you that sense of like this is like a bigger, cockpit with windows and whatnot. And then also you can see here there's a sticker there for that window, for that front piece. Now, as far as additional internals, so you have this side here where you could store the flashlights would go here, and get some extra light inside there as possible, but it's not easy to see. But give me a moment. I'm going to actually grab me a little flashlight for this. Okay, so here you could see, hopefully that it focuses. It's so hard to see on the side. We're going to be able to see on the other side, so matter of fact, but I just wanted to be able to show it from this angle. This is really just to put your flashlights in, and that's really it. And we'll get in from the other angle because this side is a lot harder to really see. And I want to say, just as far as wielding this ship in your hand, it is swooshable, but at the same time, too, this entire build feels like, and it's probably the best they could do while getting this kind of shape. Is a very odd shape in terms of these curves, but there's a lot of rattly pieces on it that are held together by the tension of, for example, this panel here is only held in place very readily by pushing the engines over it, and the engines kind of get stuck with their tension, which holds this piece in, because other than that it's very loose. So just be mindful of that when it comes to the build. Now this, assuming is the front, is where you would be able to walk in. But what's funny about this, as like a little drop boarding deck area like you would have on the Millennium Falcon, is that, trying to get my flashlight again. What's interesting about this is there's a bed right there, and the design of doing that is very poor. I don't know if when they do the whole when they end up actually doing the show, how that's going to be. I'm sure a bed's not going to be right there, but they probably didn't really have a place to put it in the grand scheme of things. But that is where they put it here. So I'm glad that they put it in there, and it gives sense of that single bed is like, okay, that's Judd's bed. But other than that, it definitely is one of those things where it's kind of misplaced. And here you see the back cargo area. And I definitely would say, well, while I'm going through this interior in these parts, pull this flashlight out again, that they utilize as much of the space as they can. Granted, with the whole design of the ship, it gets a lot more covered up, where like similar to the Razor Crest, where it just drops the side panels, this can't do that. But if it could, you would see it's basically a similar design where you have the engine and everything up top, and then the inside down below is kind of empty. Here you have the cargo. We're going to pull these out, and we're going to get into those in a few. Now, this here, if we had this down, this can be angled like that, so that now you see it's flat. So it has kind of a a hand kind of articulating effect where you can kind of angle it to be flat, and that looks kind of nice in that design where the cargo comes down. But there's not a lot of room for cargo. You can stuff something just in there, and you would have, let me angle this in a way where you would see how much room you actually have. So essentially, sorry, like once again for the lighting, it's so hard on this. You could see that that's, if you could see in there, that's the cargo room. That this panel right here, however wide that is, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'm looking at it, it's like this whole piece right here. That's as much cargo as you have. So if you had it like this, even though this whole piece moves down, so it will make something fall. But if you had this up there, which is like what, maybe 6 studs deep, that would be Once again, I'm sorry for the lighting. That would be your cargo space. You know, if you had something in there like that, it would be, there we go. Sorry about that. That would be your cargo space. So it's decent, but at the same time, being that the actual floorboard articulates as well, it makes it a little tough when it comes to, you know, if you were to store something in there. So just wanted to be able to show that to you guys there. And before we move on to the side, the main area where you're able to enter in, we're going to just take a look at these real quick. So you have one is cookies. We got two of them in here. The other one seems to be based on, you know, from my review of the Ghost Ship. I know I'm going to say this wrong. Malor fruit, I'm not sure. I never saw Rebels, so I don't know. But everyone would say it's a type of fruit, and it seems to be that same type. So obviously, across Star Wars universe, that's a fruit that is very much loved. And it's interesting to see that come into the set after you had the Ghost set and got a sense of knowing what that is. Now, on this side here, open this up. Now, this side here opens up this part too to give you more access because they know you got to have at least some point where you can really get inside and really you know, have a way to kind of play with things. So here you could see he's got and that's going in the direction of the storage area in the back that we just showed. You have it's like a kitchen area. Now, I don't know if that's like a hot top or it's just a counter, but you got the little pot and you got the little drink on there. That little piece right there. Sorry, with the flashlight in my hand, I can't point things out. So I'm going to try to do this without that. Brighten my lights a little bit. Okay. So, all right, I brighten my lights too much and it casts too much shadow for the camera. So bear with me. So here, this piece right here it looks like to just be a kind of telescope type of thing. One of those like monoculars, if you want. Is that how you pronounce it? Monoculars or but that seems to be one of those. You have the little table here in the middle, and these are 4 seats for all the characters and the bed. So obviously you have the 4 main characters sitting there, and then Jod inside the cockpit, or you could have someone sleeping here. Now, let me open up the back, which will actually give us a bit more light coming in. In addition, let me pull the side piece down like here. And so this is the bed. Let me pull it out. Now, that's one thing. Everything is so cramped when it comes to you pulling things out when it's not um when you're not when it's not like when you're in that build process. When you're in the build process, you can see all this stuff easy, and then when you actually have a finished build, it's hard to reach. So that is the bed right there for someone to lay on. And it's cool, but it's a very just odd area. It's a very strange place to put. I'm not going to throw him in there now, but it's just a very odd place to put a bed right there. It's just strange. Now, in that space there, though, what you have is just like it's like a little support space that the bed goes on. And what's interesting about that is you could, I mean, it's almost like putting a bed on top of a bed. I'm really not too sure like why they designed it like that, and I'm not saying it's an issue, but it's just very interesting. But then, in addition, sorry for the focusing, you guys. In addition, if a person was to clear that out somehow, if they wanted to, then you would have straight access to the loading ramp coming in. So let me try to maneuver this a bit. Like I said, it's very hard because this ship is just it's a great design, but there's no way for you to really get your hands in there. So here you can see that ramp coming up there into that little space. And when you get on there, it's like a little platform, which is the brown platform. So here it looks evened with the level of the docking ramp. But here you have to step down from there. So it's definitely interesting in that regard. I'm sorry, you guys, reviewing this ship, it was a lot harder than what I thought because it is very hard to kind of wield when it comes to just moving things around and whatnot. And, anyone who has this ship is going to find that out readily and easily that that is the case with it. I think it looks very nice. I think that the playability of it is a little tough because of that reason. Um, Now, just dumping back into the design element of it in terms of the vibe that it gives as far as like a ship goes, I definitely think that it has that vibe of that semi ragtag ship. Not it. I don't get completely the vibes of like the Millennium Falcon in terms of like a bag of bolts that you constantly have to be smacking with a wrench because things aren't working. But I definitely get the vibe that it is similar to Din Djarin's ship, the Razor Crest, where you kind of cut. A lot of it's been customized to fit what the hero character wanted it to be. Probably even like little hatches and little hidden compartments that we'll probably see in the show. And it's going to definitely have that vibe, that traditional Star Wars vibe to it. So that to me is cool. And this is your latest hero ship, which I think is very important when it comes to Star Wars because the hero ships are just as much of a character as the characters themselves. And just like how the Razor Crest took on a life of its own, and obviously the Millennium Falcon, which did it first, I definitely could see the Onyx Cinder being that, when it comes to that. And as far as like the lore goes, this could actually end up being, for a new generation of fans, especially younger kids, this could be their Millennium Falcon. This might actually end up being their ship that they grow up with and say, that was cool. I went on adventures with that ship the way people felt about the Millennium Falcon when it first came out, if they were, young during that time. So I think that that aspect of the ship is actually really cool and it can be that. And it definitely has a nice design for that, just kind of similar to the Millennium Falcon, this wonky design that seems all over the place, but it works. You just end up, falling in love with the ship and with the crew. I think is definitely going to be something that a lot of kids kind of grow up with and end up saying to themselves, like, okay, like that was the ship that I grew up with. That was the ship I went on adventures with. I'm going to start thinking of space adventures because of this. And yeah, so I could really see that being the case. And I think I'm going to jump into another thought process that I had kind of tagging into that, which is, this coming out before the show came out. There are pros and cons to that. Obviously, the con is if it ends up being a bad show, you don't like it, and you bought the ship, you might feel like kind of way of like, okay, I bought a ship that I'm not even a fan of. But looking at the pro side of it, those who purchase the ship and say if it ends up being a show that either people like or maybe young kids like, you're a parent, you bought it for your kids, and they get into the show and they really like it, it's a way of saying like now you have a ship to play with while you're watching the show when the show comes out, which is going to be actually, I've never seen that happen before with a Star Wars set that came out before the show came out, along with the fact that that's going to be really like a first time where people are able to really, at least in this segment of Star Wars spaceship, be able to say like, I have the figures, I have the ship before it comes out, I can play with it. It's going to be really fun. I can go on these adventures at the same time as I'm watching it because I can kind of act out what's going on like they're watching. So definitely for the younger ones and for the older ones, it's just going to be nice to be able to say, you know what, I got the ship on display. I'm really into the show. And now that I got really into the show, it's cool that I have this ship that I can display, um, you know, while I'm watching it, as opposed to be one of those people who just decides to buy the ship when the show comes out. After the show comes out, now you got to do the process of building it. And this did take me a little while to build. And it's not long, but you really got to dedicate a full straight day to really kind of get into it. So overall, what I think about this ship, I definitely think it's worth purchasing, and the value of it actually is actually very good as well. This goes for 139 currently at the moment, but because it's brand new. But I've seen it on Amazon. Link's going to be in the description for 135, so $5 off. The value I say is good because for the starting price of being 140. When you look at the Millennium Falcon, though, right now the current Millennium Falcon, I don't mean the dark version of the Falcon, but the current one from one of the latest trilogies. I forget which one it was, if it was the episode 9, but that's the mainstay Millennium Falcon, and that goes for 135 right now, but that's because it's been out a couple of years. Its initial price when it first came out was, if I'm not mistaken, $160, maybe 170, but I want to say $160. So for this one being $20 cheaper, and the part count on this is 1,325, where the Millennium Falcon had 1,351. So roughly about 25, 26 more pieces, yet this is $20 cheaper. Now, granted, the part the piece to count to a price ratio is not always in line, because some things can have tiny pieces and other ships can have big pieces. But nonetheless, for a brand new ship dropping, I think that the price is not, that it's within line of what you would get in Legos. In the crew, like I said, the crew is really a kind of thing where either you're gonna love it a lot or you're gonna hate it. But as far as a crew manning a ship, it's definitely a crew revolved around the concept of kids and a kid show and kids loving it. So it's not gonna have an ultra serious tone in terms of kids manning a ship. Granted, maybe they're not too young, but I don't think they're gonna be necessarily teenage age. They're gonna probably be more in that. If they are teenager age, probably 13 or 12, going into that lower realm. So yeah, so as far as crew goes, it's definitely going to be something geared towards kids. So keep that in mind. But with that being said, you guys, I like the ship overall. I think it's a very nice look. It's very interesting how this ship is armed to the teeth for a ship that's going to be having kids ride around in it. You've got more guns on this than probably any other ship I've seen of a hero ship. Um, yeah, so I like it. I definitely recommend for the purchase. And as always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.